Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Come on in, join us. We'll get started in a minute once we've had a few everybody's joined us. And I'll talk through this lovely slide. Good afternoon, everybody. I was going to talk through this housekeeping slide before we get started. So today's webinar is going to last about an hour, including the Q&A, and we're going to have a little short break about halfway through, 3 minutes, where I'll stop talking and you can just chill out and relax and absorb all the wonderful things that we're going to learn today. We've got Maria transcribing what I say today. So if you'd like to use the closed captions, they're available on the desktop and mobile Zoom app. So if you click the CC button at the bottom of your screen, you'll be able to access that and you can see the words that are coming out of my mouth. And then this is actually being recorded as well. So there's going to be lots and lots of resources available I'm going to include alongside this. So we're going to have a recording of it, of what we talked through today. All the resources are going to be on our website within the next 7 days. So we'll send a link to you, to all the attendees, so you can access that afterwards. And last one, say hello, please, hello in the chat. That's what it's there for. Click chat, click everyone, and then we can also see wonderful messages. Who are you away from? And then get started. I've got Peggy helping me today in the chat, so she's just popped a little message in there for you. And we're going to have a Q&A right at the end. So if you've got any questions as we go through, please use the Q&A functionality we've got there, and then we'll pick those up at the end and try and answer anything that you have burning questions on. Brilliant. Seeing people coming in, excellent. Louise, nice to see you again. Ruthba from Dance 4, excellent, hello. And Sophia, hiya. Dan, hiya. How's it going, Dan? Brilliant. Oh, wow, got quite a few coming in today, excellent, lovely to see you all. Right, let's get on with this wonderful webinar. So yeah, this is another webinar from Digital Culture Network. We've got many more coming up. So this one is all about an introduction to data visualization. So it's a big topic. It's one of my favorite topics. And if you do want any support about what we learned today, just give us a shout. So we've got an email address. Just drop us a message and you can book a one-to-one chat with any of us. There's the Tech Champions, there's 9 of us. If you want to talk specifically around data analytics, give me a chat. Hi, Rachel. Nice to see you. Hi, Olivia. Katie. Brilliant. And we've got a website as well. So if you've not been to our website, have a look on there. It's digitalculturenetwork.org.uk. And you'll find all of our previous webinars, all our future webinars that you can book onto, loads of content from all the Tech Champions as well. So please do check that out. Excellent. So this is what we're going to be covering today. So there's 3 main areas: exploratory visualizations, pre-attentive attributes, and explanatory visualizations. So those are the 3 core areas we're going to look at. And we're also going to show you some tools and further reading right at the end, and then we'll have the Q&A. But those are your main takeaways from today's session. And as I say, if you want any more support to talk through any of these kind of things, just get in touch with us and we'll have a one-to-one chat with you if you're an arts and culture based, arts and culture organisation based in England. So I've got a question for you. Here is a random string of 100 numbers. Can you tell me how many 4s can you see? Just pop it in the chat. Okay, I've got 10, 13, 12, 13. Okay, excellent. 12. Yeah. Okay, excellent. 11. Yes, we will be sharing this after the session, so you go rewatch. Excellent. 13. Oh, look at these. Brilliant. Is it easier if I put the same numbers in this shape? Is it easier for you to find those numbers? So we're looking for 4s. Yeah. Now, if I ask you, how many 3s are there? Can you answer that? Is it easier to count the threes if I do this? Same set of numbers, we're just using some different techniques to find the numbers. Now, if we have the same set of data, and then we position it like this. So on the left-hand side, on the axis there, we've got 0 to 9 on the left-hand side, working down. We've got a bar chart, and then at the end of the bar chart, so it's a horizontal bar chart, we've got the actual number of each of those numbers. So we're counting those. So if I asked you now, how many 8s are there? How quick can you tell me how many there are? Excellent. Thanks, Dan. Fastest. Amazing. So what we're seeing here is that by using data visualization techniques, we can take something like this, a string of numbers, and position them in a way that's easy for us to understand. So we're making the job far easier for us. And that's what we're going to be learning today. And that's what this session is all about, is the data that you may already have in your organization from different systems and platforms, what techniques you can use, what works, and how can you make life easy for yourselves and tell a story. So what we did there was first off, we used position. So we took the string and put it in a block to make it easier for us to interpret in a grid format like that. We then used color to attenuate the different numbers that we wanted to identify. And then we used length in the third one, which made it far easier, and especially for comparison, we can easily compare the different values against each of those numbers. So the way I see it is that data visualization this is a Venn diagram, so another way of presenting information. Data visualization is the intersect between science, which is all your data and all the numbers and figures and stuff, and art. So it just sits right between those things. And the beauty of it is that it allows you to be really, really creative, which in our jobs, sometimes you can't really do those things, but with data visualization, you can. So there's a lot of fun to be had. And hopefully, if you do look at the follow-on resources that we have after this webinar, you'll get inspired about all the different things that you might want to do and the potential of the things that you can do in the future. So, so our first core area that we're going to look at is exploratory visualizations. Now, the reason for this is that most organizations that I speak to jump straight to explanatory visualizations. So they want a dashboard that goes, this is the state of play, this is what you're going to base your decisions on. Now, it misses this part, which is the exploratory part. And this is the fundamental missing piece in most organizations, is allocating time and being comfortable with this part of it, the exploratory side of it. So we're going to look at a little example about what that could be and how you could use different charts and graphs to mine different bits of information from. So what I've got is just this bit of data. So this is just random data. I've made this up. It's not based on anything. So we've got month on the left-hand side. The middle column is shop orders. So we're imagining this is like an online shop or a physical shop. And then we've got the orders processed. Is there anything that springs to mind that people can see, any trend or anything like that they're seeing from this set of data that we've got here, just in a table format? Yeah, so we've got seasonality from Sarah. Zana says March, April, October quiet. Yeah, that's it. Excellent. Someone says they're not processing all their orders. Processing dropping over time. Excellent. That's brilliant that you're picking that up from this table. It takes a while, doesn't it, to process that information? So what we're going to do, I'm going to take this bit, I'm going to take it into Excel, because we've all seen Excel. I imagine most people have used it. And it usually present data in this way and then play around with the charts. But what exploratory analysis is, it's really the process of turning over 100 rocks to find one or two precious gemstones. That's the way we see it, because you have to play around with the data to see, and things will pop up. It's very hard when you've got in a graph in a table format like this to understand what's going on. But we're going to look at different charts, see what we can see. So I'm just going to switch over to Excel now. Here's one I made earlier. So the same set of data here, and I'm just going to use Excel's built-in ability to format as a table. So I'm just going to switch it to the black one there. So this table's got headings. Just going to remove that filter off there. So immediately, instead of just having that data to set there, by using the table format, you've got some nice, yeah, it is a lot of the rings there, desktop, well spotted. I love a bit of Middle Earth. So we've got January, but by presenting it in the table format in this way, allows you to then move across lines. You've got the headers are highlighted about what they are, so it's clear that that's the month, they're the shop orders, and they're the shop orders processed, and then each month you can move across those lines in table format. So it's really good for displaying information like that. So if we took the data, I'm just going to highlight it, just these two columns, and I'm going to use the conditional formatting that you can use in Excel, and I'm going to use color scales. So if you use color scales, it's comparing within the same column the highs and lows. So if you're able to see red and greens, you'll be able to see these color schemes, and we'll talk about accessibility a bit later on. So December immediately is a darker green, so we've got more sales in there. And then in here we're seeing that September and October are the lowest orders processed. So they're great in their own columns, but they're not talking to each other. We can't see the difference between those two sets of data. So we need to look at different charts. So what we're going to do is, again, select all the data there. And then we're going to go and we're going to insert a chart. So I'm not going to click recommended charts, it's because it's going to jump ahead, but I'm going to do a bit of exploratory stuff first. So first off, I'm going to use a pie chart. Let's have a look at that. So what does that tell us? It's quite difficult, isn't it, to interpret those different months. You first got to look at a color, and you've got to match the color up. So that dark green one, December, right? Okay. If we change it, so the data switch that, I'm going to switch the rows columns, and now it's going shop orders received, what shop orders processed. So that's in total. There's slightly less process. It's not really telling me which is it. So we'll move that one out of the way. So again, I'm going to set same set of data, and there's another one, and let's go for like this one, histogram. So that's flipped December to the front. I have no idea what's going on there. This is no good, is it? Right, let's move that one out of the way. And let's choose another one. And it's fine to just keep working through this when you do an exploratory analysis. It doesn't have to look beautiful because you're not showing anybody. It's just you working through it. Insert another one. Let's see if we've got. Wow, we did that one, didn't we? This one. I mean, I don't even know what that's doing. Anybody tell me there? 89. 89. Well, I don't even know. So we'll move that one out of the way again. Again, nothing there. And let's choose another one. Bar chart. Well, this looks better, doesn't it? So what we've got here is that we've got January through to December, and we can see we've got a bar for each of the orders processed and the orders received. And you see the comparison between them. You start to see over here, after May starts to drop. Oh, there's a bit of a gap there between those two things. So that's highlighting an issue there. So it's the same set of data. You compare that to the visualization that you've got from a pie chart not telling you anything, and then you've got the bar charts here actually giving you some really useful information there. Now we're going to drop the same set of data. Just going to insert the one that we'll probably recommend if you're actually going to do this, is this one. So this is a time-based series, so January through December, looking at that data, looking at the numbers, and it's comparing them. After May, something's going wrong. So we're starting to see a huge gap appear. And so some of you are really good at looking at that table in that first slide and going, there's a disparity here. But it took you a while to work that out. If you show this to somebody and go, this is the orders receiving, this is orders processing, it's immediately obvious that there's a gap there because we're used to seeing these lines. We understand that line is the same thing moving all the way through. It's all inbuilt. And we're going to look at pre-attentive attributes in a bit, which explains all of that. So another question for you lot. We're going to go back to our slides. Which is bigger in this pie chart? This is a 3D pie chart. Is it A, B, C, or D? Now I've said which is bigger, B or C, but it might be another one. B, C's, right? Yeah. C's. same. Oh, there we go. Controversial, equal. Is it easier if it's not 3D and we put it like that? So is C bigger? Is A bigger? Is B bigger? It's not easy, is it? Difficult. So C and B, they look, how close are they together? That's one of the issues with pie charts. Now, is it easier if I do this and just put the same set of data and put it in a horizontal bar chart? Can we compare those values easier? Which is bigger, C or B? And then when we're thinking about by how much, we can put an axis in there so it's easier. So we can go at the bottom there, we've got the horizontal axis, 0, 10, 20, 30. We can see that B is 30. So looking at that, we can see the comparison and compare those values. So it's far easier for us to understand. We can pick this up and go, you immediately know looking at this that C is bigger than B. Whereas, go back to that pie chart, it's very hard for us to understand. So it's all about using the right charts, graphs, and visualizations in the right context for the data that you have. And we've got some really good resources that can help you through this. So this is my favorite slide. Should I use a pie chart? No. And then no in pink. So that's the only pie chart that you should ever have in your life, because it's terrible. I know people like to have them in dashboards, but they make understanding data really, really difficult. So stick by that. I do. It's very difficult when I see them. So we've done a bit of exploratory analysis, visualizations analysis, and now we're going to look at pre-attentive attributes. So you're going, I've never heard of this thing, but what it is that back in the early 20th century, the Gestalt principles of visual perception worked out. So it's by lots of these German scientists and data analysis. They got together and created this framework because they understood that there are actually some principles that our visual perception of things works on. So they've done lots of work around it. I'm going to show you some examples about what that is. So as we were just looking at that example in Excel, we could understand that that line is attached to the same thing because of the way our visual brain works and that kind of understanding. So the principles are, there's proximity, there's similarity, there's enclosure, there's closure, there's continuity, and there's connection. So I'm going to show you what they look like now. And once you've seen these, you'll start to see them in different patterns, especially when you're looking at the presentation of data or visualizations in the future. And we've all seen a lot of graphs and charts over the last 18 months. So the first is proximity. So on the left-hand side, we assume that all those different dots that we've got there are in the same block. They're together because of the position they are, so how close they are to each other. Whereas on the right-hand side, we automatically think there's 3 lines. And it's the same number of dots, but they're just positioned slightly differently. So it's all about proximity and how they're positioned there. The next is similarity, and this is using color. So we've got some green squares and we've got some gray squares. Now we automatically match the green squares up and we automatically match up the gray squares. We just can't help it. We look at that, it does it. And that's all these things are happening automatically because of our fantastic brains doing all this processing for us. The next is enclosure. So by putting a shape around something else and enclosing them, we assume that they're connected in some way. So those 6 dots in the top left, because they've got a yellow square around, oblong around them, we think that they're connected in some way. So another example of that. The next is closure. And your brain can see a square, a circle, and a triangle, even though they don't exist fully. So there's it's assuming that it's filling those gaps in for you. So it's assuming there's a square, it's assuming there's a circle, assuming there's a triangle as well. And that's what our brains are doing again. So even we're just we're saying that, oh, this little bit of corner here that we've got going up, that means that actually is all connected. So your brain is automatically filling in those gaps for you. And there's loads of examples online about this. And one example is the WWF logo with the panda. And if you look at that, it's not outlined all in the Panda. It's just using those shapes, and you fill in the rest when you look at it. The next is continuity. So our eyes naturally want to follow this and flow down, and the eye wants to go across this line here. Even though we're telling it that the red dots are the ones that you should be following and the grey dots are the other ones. So it likes the easy path when we're looking at stuff. Your brain likes the easy path, so it's going to flow through those things. And the next one is connection. So by connecting things in a certain way, so we're putting a line between those center dots, we think that they're connected in some way. There's some connection going on there. And all of these, when we put them together, they're called pre-attentive attributes. And this slide shows what they look like. So we've got various different ones here. And there's four main categories for these. So there's plenty here, but they're all in four main categories. So first is color, which is like the intensity and the hue. You'll find that down here at the bottom. So we've got like a red dot there. That's the color, and then we've got the intensity, so showing that contrast. So that's color. We've also got form, which is like the orientation, so the positioning of things. So when we think about graphs, it's using all these different elements. We've got length, so we interpret longer length to be a larger thing, or width as well. We think it's bigger, and size as well. So a smaller dot versus a bigger dot, we think the bigger dot means something greater. And these are all, again, all built in to our visual perception. Just our brain is doing this automatically, which is incredible. And there's also the spatial positioning as well. So the 2D positioning. So in the bottom right here, we've got this dot is out of position to the other one. So something is very different there. And then we've got the spatial grouping. So the closer they are together, does that mean there's something linked to those because they are? And the fourth category is movement. So there isn't an example on here, but if you have something with like a trail behind it, it's showing movement in a certain direction, and that might interpret certain things as well. So think about like an upward arrow, like movement. It's like it's telling you that things are going upwards or they're going down as well. And we see that a lot in different charts that we have. This next slide is brilliant. So the Financial Times have created this, and Peggy's going to chuck a link to this in the chat for you to have a look at. They've created this amazing guide that they use as a framework for anything that they produce online or in print. So they have this different definitions of the types of graphs and charts they use and the reasons why. So over on the left, if they explain why they would use it. So we've got different things. So if we're looking for correlation to see how things are plotted together, they're using scatter plots, and they're using column and line timelines and connected scatter plots. If they're going to do something that's ranking, they're going to use an ordered bar, an ordered column, and then these ordered proportional symbols. Now this is just kind of a screen cap of a certain section of it, but there's loads more to this. This PDF that Peggy's put in the chat for you. So honestly, download that, and all the stuff that we're talking about today. So like the oh, thanks Maria, bye bye. Everything that we've got that we're talking about today, like the pre-attentive attributes, they're here. You can see them in action here. And you know, if you do go to the Financial Times and look at anything they provide, or most of the major news websites and content that they put out, you'll find these amazing graphs and visualizations and infographics that they create, and they use these kind of frameworks because we've got like a standardized way of presenting information, and it's about choosing the right presentation for the data. Right, so I'm going to have a little break now, just to stop talking for 3 minutes. So I'm just going to pop this slide up, but click that link, have a look at that if you want to do that for 3 minutes, but we're just going to have a little breather, so to stop me talking for a few minutes. Okay, I'm back. Brilliant. So next is all about explanatory visualizations. So let me take you on a journey underground. So you may have seen this before, or a modern version of it. I'm going to talk about that, and there is a reason why I'm talking about that, and it'll all become clear after this part. So when we look at the underground map, this was Harry Beck's design from 1931. Now there were versions of this before then, but what he did is actually ignore the geographic positioning of things for the underground and actually make it all about the end user and how they would use it. They don't need to know how the actual geographic. I'll show you an example of what that actually looks like in a minute. But this was made 90 years ago, and it's absolutely fantastic and still used today in its modern form. When we look at a map of London, there's a huge. I mean, this is Google Maps, so this is one that I just screen captured today. There's a huge swathe of data going on here. We've got some places, visit attractions, Tower of London, British Museum. I've got various things like Portobello Road Market over there. Some of the parks that you can see, the names of the places, and you can see the different roads and how you'd move through them. But for me as a user, I want to know how I can get from, say, Peckham through to Mayfair. This doesn't give me that data. So it is all there, it's all in there, there's a huge swathe of data, but I can't work out how I would get from Peckham to Mayfair on any transport. I could probably work it out walking, but I don't know how long it's going to take and what route, what I'd go through. But the tube map is thinking about a specific user. So who is the end user? Who is your audience? And they have a specific objective in mind. So they can present it in a way that people can understand. And by using repetition through the design choices that they have, it becomes an internationally known way of working and design that you can follow, and it's easy to understand. Once you get it, it's dead easy to pick up and go. So when we look at the map, this is a full tube map of the whole of London. We've got all the different lines there, so it's color coded. Different key over on the right hand side. It's quite small, so apologies for that. But we're just giving you the overview on this one. But, different color keys for the different lines, and if you wanted to go from Peckham, which is down here somewhere, wherever it is, and I'm going to move up through to wherever it was I was going. I can choose different lines. I can see where they interconnect, so I can get onto a different line. And for me as a user, I can use this map to traverse London, and I can go from one side all the way through to the other just by using this one map, because this has been tailored for me as a user to navigate the underground. Now, it's available in different formats. So the same set of data for the specific audience, but there's different types of audiences. So if you've got an app on your phone, you could probably type in the London Tube Map app on your phone. You could type in what station you start at, what station you'd like to end up, and it will give you that really specific route through. It'll give you the timings of when to catch and change. But if you've not got that, you've got the paper map. This is designed to sit in your back pocket. You can pull out. It's got the full map on, and you can work your way through. So you're using the same set of data, but it's being used in different ways. So it's all about who your audience is and what are their wants and needs. And if you think about your audience in this way, it's like as the user enters the station, they know where they're trying to get to. Now there's two stations when you go down into the tube. It's two platforms, sorry. And one platform goes one way on the line, and one platform goes the other. Now, what London Underground have on the display boards, when you hit that point, so when the user is at that point of the journey, they don't want the full map now, because that'd be too confusing. They're here, they're in a rush, they want to catch the next train that's just screaming into the station. So this level of data is presented to them. So I can go on this side. So right, I need to go to Seven Kings. So I need to get on platform A. So I don't need to go the other way. I can just get on this one and go. Or I needed to connect to one of the central lines. So I'm going to go to Stratford. So I can see this. It's all presented in this way. So it's really simplifying and focusing the amount of data that's available to the end users. And when you get on the tube, when you look up, there's loads of adverts, things like that, but you've actually got the line that you're on. So if I was on the Bakerloo line, I would only see the Bakerloo line. That's what they have, the stickers on those tube, on the tube trains. So I can see what station I'm at now and how many stops I've got until the one I can get off. So it's amazing that it's a really efficient way of using the huge amount of data that's available, but only presenting the right information at the right time. And when we look at the actual map, so London Underground, Transport for London, what they did is actually create a realistic version of this. Now, if this was the map that you were given, it's still the same set of data. There's still the same colours there for the different stations and the different lines. It's actually far harder to understand where you want to go. So as an example, if we look at Heathrow Terminal, which is over here on the left, it's quite a small map, so apologies. Over here is Heathrow. You'll see there's a loop there, a blue loop, and that is way out of London, isn't it? You think central London is here, and that's way over there. And I'm just going to jump to this. When we look at the tube map, you see the loop of Heathrow here. Now, comparative, geographically, that's very, very different. So if I want to get to Heathrow, I can know I get the blue line, I'm going to go down there, and I'll get to Heathrow eventually. Now, if I go back to this one, I want to get to Heathrow, and it's like, oh, it goes all the way around, it goes up there, eventually you get there. So it's much harder to interpret and understand the real life. So you can change the display of information to make it easier for your audience to understand. And it's quite pretty. I love all the colours and stuff like that, but it's absolutely bonkers. So the reason I was showing you all of that is that not all data that you have is equally important. Now, and you have to think about your different audiences. When you're doing explanatory analysis and visualization, it's very different to the exploratory stuff. So the exploratory stuff is you'll do on your own or with a team, and you'll work through those things. You'll look at the data and use different graphs and find those, as I say, those gems in all the different stones that you're overturning. And when we move on to the explanatory stuff, it's that we just want the gems. If for your audience, they only want to see those bits. They don't need to see all the workings out and stuff like that. So that's why I found this Megan Herbert. She was on Instagram. This lovely picture. It's like the life of an artist is that the work you see is a really small, tiny tip of the iceberg of the actual work that goes into something, and it's the same for when you're doing this kind of analysis, and that's why I put it there. Or the work that goes on behind creating webinar and things like that. Is the work that you see is very small. And you don't have to show everything. I know it's tempting to go, I've done all this working out, I've looked at all this kind of stuff, but only show your audience that top bit when you're doing explanatory stuff. Because if it's difficult for them to understand your audience, they assume it's difficult to do as well and make actions on. So make it as easy as possible, make the decision making easy. If it's a narrative that you want them to understand and make decisions on, and you're trying to push them in a certain direction. And we'll look at what that looks like in a second. So going back to our example of the shop data that we had, if you went to, we've identified that there is a gap here. So we're seeing that the actual processing of orders, actually getting them out the door and posting to people, is falling way behind the amount of sales we're getting. And we're only going to get more sales as you enter December. It's going to be Christmas time, more sales, and people are going to miss Christmas. They're not going to get their stuff in time for Christmas. So the impact on your business, on your organization, like negative reviews, all that kind of stuff, because you're not delivering on what you promised. So that's an issue for this organization, organizations that we've made up. And when we look at the data, we can that chart that we made, we presented this one. We chose a line graph, and we can look at this, and we can see the flow, and we can put a bit more information. We can say that put that on the end there, so we can say it's easy to understand this. Like received, orders received, and then the orders processed. We can see it's falling behind. And by looking at this graph and the way we're presenting it this way, we're going, right, something happened in May. Right, what was it? And for this imaginary organization, 2 members of staff left in May, so they left the organisation, and that means that they're falling behind, and it's not going to get any better because the staff that are left are struggling to process these orders. So that's what this story is we're telling you. Now, if we want to go to senior leadership or the board or something and go, we need more staff, and we're showing you this data to prove it, we could give them this, and they'll be like, yeah, it's not, it doesn't really enforce that message. Or we could give them this and go, look, this is really simple for you to understand. Orders are falling behind. But we can actually add more to this graph to be more persuasive with the argument we're trying to make. So all that data that we had, so thinking of the tube map, all that, we don't have to show them all the stations. We just need to show them the ones that to prove the argument that we're trying to make. So we're saying, in May, something changed. And in this graph, this is the way we're going to display it. We're going to use text to narrate what's going on here. So you notice that straight off at the top here, shop sales over time, I've just knocked the color back to a lighter gray, so not bold anymore, because we're going to add more in at the top as well. And I've put a line in May. And on that line, it says, it explains what happened. 2 sales assistants left in May. We've been unable to keep up with orders and have not been able to catch up. So that's the situation we're in. So what is the ask? What are we asking the people that we're showing this to? We're asking them this. And we're putting that big right at the top. We're saying, please approve the hire of 2 part-time sales assistants to backfill those who left in the past year. So we're presenting the argument right at the top. We're going, this is what we want you to do. So we're using this as an explanatory visualization, and we're going, this is the problem. This is what we're asking you to do. And we're positioning the data in the right place. So we're putting the ask at the top. We're going, this is the data, this is what it is that we're looking at here, shop sales over time. This is the problem, and this is the proof. So we're working through those different steps. So we're taking away all those other bits that we had. With that table of information, we don't need. This is a far better way of being persuasive with the data set you've got and to push the argument that you want to have. So what we're using here is some different ways to focus the attention. So I'll just show you some of those. And it's all about highlighting the important stuff. So, we look at that. We've got bold, we're using different positioning of stuff, using color as well. And we're just going to talk through those. So first off is using bold, italics, and underlining. These are great. They work in most things, don't they? And they definitely work when you're presenting explanatory visualizations as well. Using case, so capitalization or lowercase, depending on, again, higher or lower priority, and typeface. Now, can anyone guess what typeface I've used there? And please don't ever use that typeface. It is Comic Sans. It is awful, yeah, James. Please don't use Comic Sans. Color. And I said earlier on that I was going to talk a bit about the accessibility. So color, you have to be very, very careful with color, because color evokes emotion. And example, if you use red, that's sometimes interpreted as being very urgent or an issue or negative. But you've also got to think about different cultures as well. So depending on who is your audience and you're showing this to. For example, in the West, like the color white, it aligns to like peace and purity. But in more Eastern cultures, it's about death and mourning and grief. So if you're presenting stuff using that as one of your primary colors, it could have a negative connotation to it. So you have to be aware of those, depending on who your audience is. Think about that. And the other element is the accessibility side of it. So the part of, 1 in 12 men and then 1 in 200 women have color vision deficiency. So they find it difficult to tell the difference between reds, oranges, yellows, browns, and greens. So if you're in that group, you might find it hard to interpret some of the kind of visualizations that are presented to you. So again, who is your audience? Do they have any of those kind of impairments that you need to be aware of or to cater for, or just don't use them? There's other ways of using different colors that are still, you can still interpret easily in visualizations. So you can just avoid them completely. The other one is inversing elements. So that's just switching the background color, and really makes it quite impactful if you want to bring attention to that one. And the last is size. So make it big. If you want to shout something, make it big. And I'm going to use some of these in my next example. So again, just made up data from a random organization in my head. So we've got this one. So this is the data that we're looking at. So this might be marketing team, or the team looking after your shop and the sales and things like that. They're looking at this and going, right, this graph has got our memberships, donations and tickets, and we've chucked them all together into a line graph, so we can see the revenue in pounds going up to around over 550 around there, and then the days through to 1 to 30, 31. So that's September. But if we want to look at donations, we're actually kind of missing stuff. So it's quite hard because of the tickets are actually overwhelming the other ones for memberships and donations. It's actually quite difficult to interpret what's going on with those. So if we look at just donations, so it's the same data. So you see donations, there's little spikes here. Same data, but we're just looking at donations. It's actually much easier for us to understand and go, actually, something happened on the 5th of September, which had a huge level of donation. Was it multiple? So this is where the exploratory stuff is really useful, because you go, something's going on there. Let's go and find out what that is. Was it that you did something differently as a team, or you had somebody who was just really flush that day? You can look at the transactional sales that you had. Was it specific customers? How can you replicate that? How can you get more people to give you that level of donation? And we can also use, a comparison between August and September. So we can see with this graph, we can see August is the lighter blue. It's consistently lower in September. And that's because this team, this imaginary team, made a change in September. And we're going to show that to the board. So we're going to go to our senior leadership. Do they need to see this kind of graph? Is that useful for them? Or is it better for us to position data in this way? So we're telling them the story. We're doing some storytelling here. We're going, donations significantly increased in September. So I'm using bold. I'm changed the color slightly, not bold anymore compared to August, because it's useful, but it's not the main message. And here's that inversing the colors. So this is the statement of what changed. On the 8th of September, we changed the placement and wording of donation prompts on the website. So we made that change. And the result is the top level stats. So this is the numbers. This is not a graph in that way. It's going, these are the actual figures. It's going, in September, we earn £562.50 from donations. And we've got this, as I said, that kind of movement we were talking about, using arrows, and we're using green here to signify good. Our donations in September are up 253.8%, which is amazing for this organization. Fantastic. And just to support that, we've got this lovely graph at the bottom here, just going around the 8. Oh yeah, brilliant. So revenue for September was consistently higher than August because of this change you made. And we can see across the other sales channels as well, so memberships and tickets, the different products we've got there, they're up as well. So we're also seeing growth there, but a huge growth in donations. So instead of showing this to a senior leadership team and going, this is what we've got, things are up, it's far easier for them to you can present this to them and go, this is the story, this is what's happening, this is the change we made, this is how better we're doing. So let's do more of it or replicate it. And going back to that iceberg example, is just show them what you need to show them. You don't show them all this. Don't show them the actual core figures that go behind all this. It's not necessary. There we go. So our next section we're going to look at now is a few of the tools that are available out there. And I'm going to show you 3 or 4, but they all more or less do the same thing. So it's up to you to choose one, maybe test it out. You might already have one in-house in your organization. Give it a go, because they all can do the same thing realistically. But again, if you need any support with trying any of these out, just give us a shout. We'll help you out. That's what we're here for. So the first is Power BI. Now this is from Microsoft. So if you have an Office 365 subscription, you'll probably have access to this already. And you can get a free version of it as well from Microsoft. And you can plug in multiple data sources, and then you can play around with data. You can do the explanatory stuff and the exploratory stuff all within the same package. And it's good. A good product from Microsoft. Many organizations use this one. There's also Tableau. You may have heard of this one. This is used worldwide by many organizations, and it's really good. What's good about Tableau is that they've got a fantastic community around it. So they're always sharing visualizations about what they're seeing, great stuff, got great examples of things. But they also have user groups as well, so regional user groups. So, if you're in a certain area in England that you want to go to, you can join their group, go and see them and chat about all things Tableau, which is fantastic. There's a lot of support out there for this. You can get a free version of it. But if you want to, I think everything has to, any visualizations are publicly available if you have the free version. If you want them to be private, you have to, and shareable, you have to purchase the products. And then the third one is Google Data Studio. Now this is free from Google. It's all, you don't have to download anything onto your computer. It's all done online. And they have connectors for all of the Google products, which are free. So you can integrate anything such as stats from YouTube or Google Analytics and Google Ads and things like that. If you want to bring in data sets from other places, so you have to buy a connector. So there is a cost attached to it. But again, you can play around, try and drop some data in, have a play around, see what the visualization tells you. These are great. Flourish is another one. I'm just going to show you this. I'm just going to switch to my browser. Yep. Flourish had some fantastic examples on their website. So just go to their website, go to examples. And they've got some brilliant ways of just displaying data, like this one. More interactive data visualization. It's showing population growth over time. So USA was huge for ages, and then China since the 80s, it's been the leader, and then you've got India as well. So it's a great way of bringing data to life in this way. It's all, you can plug your own data into this and play around with it. There's loads of templates and designs on here, which is fantastic. So please do check that out. I'm going to link to all of these in the resources, so you can have a look at that. These are 4 books that, if you're into this, if this is sparking something in you, I recommend having a look at. We've got Better Data Visualizations by Jonathan Shorbish, Storytelling with Data by Cole Nafik. I've got her book. Don't judge a book by its cover. It looks terrible, that one, but this is absolutely brilliant. A lot of what we've talked about, especially around pre-attentive attributes, is in here. Really good book. And there's a whole website with supporting stuff and templates and challenges for you to do as well. So it's quite good. And then we've got Data Visualization by Andy Kirk. That's a really good book. And what Andy Kirk does on his website is he does a weekly list of the best visualizations he's seen out there in the real world. So it's really good to check out what's going on. And then the last one is How Charts Lie by Alberto Cairo. And it's more like a modern version of the 1950s book, which is How to Lie with Statistics. This is kind of a chart version, a more modern chart version of that. So do check that out. There's also, if you want to start playing around and you've got your tool and you're like, I haven't got much data to play around with, check this out. Now, Makeover Monday, every single Monday, a new set of data is released from the team that do all this. It's all free to do it. So it's all on Twitter. And they'll release the data and go, off you go and tell a story with it. What can you visualize this with using the packages you've got? And what they'll do is critique what you've done. And review it, and it's amazing. So I do recommend checking it out, and just to see what people are creating with the same set of data worldwide. People are creating different visualizations. So it's all about that learning about how you can use the same set of data and present it in completely different ways to tell the story. And then the last one example we've got is Information is Beautiful website, and again, I'll link to this all in the resources we send you. Just some fantastic visualizations on here, so check out that website. loads of stuff. Really, really inspiring to just take those numbers and figures that you've got, or like survey results, and just present them in such a fantastic way that it's really going to engage your audience. So please check that one out. Right, so here's our wrap up. So first off, we looked at exploratory visualization. So we used that data set that I made up, that table of data, and then we had a look at using different charts and just spent time in Excel just plotting out different charts just to see what it would tell us. And that's fine. You know, you can do that. Spend time doing that in your organization. It's fine to do that. Don't jump straight to the explanatory bit. Do some exploratory. See what gems are unearthed when you turn over those stones. We then looked at pre-attentive attributes. So all of the way that our cognitive brains are just working all those things out automatically. It's doing all that heavy lifting for you. And we can make it far easier by using data visualization as well. And then we looked at explanatory visualization. So how to tell a story with the data that you've got, and thinking about your audience. Who are they? What do they need to know? What is it you're trying to tell them? What's the story? Don't show them everything. They don't need to know it all. They don't need to know how hard you worked either. And then we looked at tools and further reading as well. So there's loads of resources there that we're going to put on the website for you, including a recording of this. So there we go. So next is over to the Q&A. So if you've got any questions, now's the time to fire them into the Q&A option on Zoom if you'd like to ask. I'm going to invite Peggy to join me on screen.
Hi James, thank you so much. We've had a couple of questions come in, but we've got a bit of time, so anyone who's got more questions, do put them in the Q&A. First one we've got is about how you presented the data. So could you show how you added notes, or maybe explain how you added the notes and the lines and the things that were focusing the attention in that line graph you had?
Yes, so when you're using any of these platforms and packages, don't feel like you have to use them and put everything in it. So what I did with these is actually did it all in PowerPoint. So I took the visualization that I created, so the just the graph itself, and that was I did that in Google Data Studio. So I had the visualization in there, or I could have used Excel with the same option, because I'm going to bring that in. And let me just show you. Let me bring up. Let's stop that. Over here. So, for example, so I'm just jumping back to my slide. Where is it? Here it is. You're going to see all my lovely transitions that are terrible now.
We can't see your PowerPoint at the moment. It's okay.
You see it now?
There we go. Yeah.
Brilliant. So this is actually a screen grab from. Got to hide my things now because it was hiding things. This is actually a screenshot from Google Data Studio. The other bits I've just added in Excel. I'm just adding, in PowerPoint. So all of this is just PowerPoint. So I'm just using those. I've actually done bits to hide the stuff, but this is just text on there. So don't feel like you have to do all of this and make it look beautiful in the package you're using. You can lift it out. I'm using a Windows PC, and if you, hang on, I remember, I'll just do it automatically. I can't remember when you think about it. Yeah. There we go. Right. If you do Shift S and the Command key, so the Windows key, Shift S and Windows, it allows you to select and capture a section of the screen. So I don't know if that, can you see this coming through?
Yeah.
So I'm using that. So I've used Shift, Windows, and S, and it brings this up. I can do that and capture it, and then I can just paste that using Control and V, and paste it in. Paste it into any presentation that I've had. So that bit is from the data visualization bit, and all this other bit of text I've just added it in PowerPoint, so you can just use that.
Brilliant, thank you. Hopefully that's answered your questions, Anna. Got a couple more. So what is about data from different sources? Have you got any tips for bringing together data from lots of different places?
Yeah, so let me just jump straight back to that one. Oh, sorry, bear with me. Yeah, so depending on the package you choose, and there are various ones, obviously. We're looking at PowerPoint. Sorry, we looked at Power BI, and Tableau, and Google Data Studio. Now, Power BI have multiple connections. So when you look at their connectors about data sources, you can choose different platforms. So you might have Google Analytics on your website. You might have a ticketing system full of data as well. Now, these each of these software packages has connectors to those, so you can pull the data into them. So you could have multiple data sources all coming in, and then you're visualizing it in a way that tells that story. So it's not one connector for one graph. You could have one page that's actually got your analytics from your website. It's got your ticket sales. It's got newsletter subscriptions from MailChimp as well. So you can pull those in, those different data sources, and each one has different ways of doing it, but they all can.
I suppose if you're doing something like that, it's about thinking, who is the audience? What information do they need? And it might feel really exciting to pull in data from 10 different places, but sometimes sticking to one or two is actually what you need to do.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And then one here again about sort of dashboards. Would you recommend kind of sticking to one similar style of data visualization, so you've got a kind of consistent dashboard, or would you recommend using a wide variety of different types of visualization in the dashboard?
Yeah, it all depends on the audience you've got. So if you were doing explanatory stuff, so it was for you and your team, and you're going to look at the data, you could have a dashboard that has, it is, say if it was using that shop sales example, we could have had that as a data source, and we could have had all those graphs on the same page, just sat there as a visual, and then we can just look at that monthly and go, what's that graph telling us? Nothing. What's that? Ooh, there's something interesting there, and there's something there. Why is there a pie chart on here? Who put that in? So you could present it in that way, and then when you're doing the explanatory stuff to somebody else, you could choose the ones that are actually going to tell the story best. So play around, use them. It's only time that it's going to take you. There's no extra cost to put anything in. But they're using that Financial Times example of the different types of data and graphical visualizations they use, depending on the story they're telling, is really useful. Because if you want to go, we've got this over time, we're going to use a line chart or a bar chart. You're not going to use like a scatter plot or something like that.
Yeah. Well, we've got one question just finally come in, which we'll just answer quickly. So how do you manage or mitigate data that doubles up from different sources? So
depending on the platform you've got, you can merge the data sets. So you can actually create merge data, so they're referencing the same things. So there's sometimes there's quite a bit of configuration in the first instance to do that, but you can actually match those things up, and then it's called merge data sets.
Well, I'm going to leave it at that because we're just at 3 o'clock now.
Brilliant. Thanks everybody for joining us. As we mentioned at the beginning, drop us a message if you have any questions about this kind of stuff. You want help in it, or you want just to know a bit more about those things, drop us a message. We're here for you. We've got the website. This recording will be on here. Oh, thank you for your lovely messages. Brilliant. We've got our YouTube channel as well. Loads of recordings, loads of content. And Dean keeps doing these wonderful things. So you get to see more of him and the rest of us. And get in touch, yeah, please do. And share it on Twitter, #DigitalCultureNetwork. And then follow us at @ace_DCN. Thank you. Have a great day.